Hello, everyone, and welcome to our very first official episode of New Sun's Midwest Futures, a podcast for and with makers, thinkers, and dreamers in the Midwest. I'm Charlie Brissy, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Marcy Mitchell, and the fabulous, inimitable Alyssa Gregory from Chicago. So Alyssa and I have known each other for a very long time. We met around 2004 in the dance department at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. And we were both dance majors, so rolling into ballet class at 8:30 a.m. and dancing all day, and then going out dancing more at night, and getting into all sorts of trouble and magic and everything in between, as you do in college. And since college, we've never actually lived in the same city. Alyssa immediately went to Chicago, which she will talk about a lot today. But of course, we've stayed in touch, and I've had the pleasure of witnessing Alyssa become such a badass boss within the dance scene in Chicago over the years, doing everything from teaching to performing to administrative work to community infrastructure kinds of work. I would even say accountability work, confronting presenters and critics, gathering testimonials from the community, and so on and so on. So, pretty much as soon as I was sure that this podcast was really going to happen, I knew right away that I wanted Alyssa here for the very first episode. She was immediately the first person that came to mind because she's done so much asking and listening to the independent dance community in Chicago about what folks need. And then with that information, so much organizing and presenting and navigating and shuffling and hustling, and also dealing with the pushback and bullshit that unfortunately still comes with doing that kind of work. All of which you will hear about today because, lucky for me, Alyssa said yes to this podcast, and I'm really, really excited to share our conversation with you now.
Oh my God, Charlie, the
Uh-huh.
poster behind you,
Do
the
you remember
dance
that?
show. That was your senior project. I
Yeah.
danced in that
Oh,
show.
and you were in
Also,
it.
look at I have this one over here
Oh
from
my gosh.
Shelter. Yeah.
Crazy. Oh my gosh, Shelter. Wow.
Yeah.
That was
I just
so long ago. Can you believe
so
that was
long
like
ago.
14 years ago or something? 13 years
No,
ago?
no, that's
12? I don't
crazy.
know. It was over a decade ago.
Yeah, because
I
that was
I
in
just pulled up.
2020. I graduated, it's 2011. That was 10 years ago
Wait, you graduated? Oh, mine
because I
was like
graduated
2009,
because
2008,
I
2008.
because I graduated in the fall of 2010, but because Shelter was shown in the spring, they let me like keep
That's
taking
right.
class. Yeah,
Okay.
because I moved here to
That's
Chicago in
crazy.
2011.
Yeah. That's
Wow,
wild.
time,
I
time.
actually before we got on today, I just went through mostly Facebook and pulled all of these pictures because I have like baby pictures of us. It feels like of you and I,
Yay.
like so long ago. I'll show them to you in a little bit. They're so
Yeah,
funny. We look
cute.
so little
We've been friends for so long.
for so long. Yeah. Um, so okay, Marseille, obviously Elisa and I know each other. We went to
Sorry,
school, we went to
Marseille.
undergrad together at
Hi.
VCU. And you're about to learn a whole bunch about Elisa, who's doing amazing things in Chicago now. Marseille is a grad student at the University of Michigan and is also doing awesome work thinking about water and identity and connection and community, and does a bunch of stuff in Detroit and is from Flint. And yeah, so I'm very happy you two get to meet, and I'm very happy I get to hang out with both of you and ask you lots
This
of
is really
questions,
cool.
Elisa.
This is really cool. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you, Marseille.
Nice to meet you as well, Alyssa.
Oh, my name it's spelled like Alyssa, but it's pronounced
Mhm.
Elisa.
Alyssa. My
Hmm.
apologies.
Oh,
Alyssa.
it's all good.
Do you
Yeah,
get that all the time? Do you have to correct people all the
all
time?
the time, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
but
if I didn't know you, I
I
might say Alyssa by accident if I hadn't heard
yeah,
it.
and the thing like sometimes I'll change like if I'm gonna be like a conversation or I know I'm gonna like see the person again, I'll definitely like be like it's Elisa. But if I'm like at Starbucks, I'm like I'm never gonna see this person again. Whatever, it's
Yeah.
Alyssa. You know.
I always get
Just
Carly at Starbucks whenever, well, I don't go to Starbucks really, but if I'm at a coffee shop ever and they ask for your name or something and I say Charlie, they always write down Carly. I'm like, that is so different. Carly is
that's
such a different name than Charlie. Please don't call
yeah.
me Carly.
No, not even close. Not even
Not
close.
even close. Okay, anyway, so let's get into it. And so the first thing that I like to ask is just for people to talk about where you're living right now and a little bit of geographical history. So where you've lived before, how you ended up where you are, all that
Yeah, so I'm in Chicago, in the Avondale neighborhood. So I'm like on the western side of the city. Um, I've lived all over, moved here 10 years ago. Crazy to even think about
stuff.
that. But
Whoa.
yeah, I moved here 10 years ago. So I lived in the South Side in Hyde Park when I first moved here, and then I moved up north and everywhere. But I like living on the West Side. It's just more of my vibe personally. And before that, I was in VCU. I was in Richmond at VCU, so I graduated and moved directly here after undergrad. There was no, stop at go and collect my $200. I was just like, boop, I'm leaving. I'm not going, not even going home. I'm originally from Northern Virginia, like right outside of DC. So yeah, that's the trajectory. I ended up here mostly, I think, because I didn't want to go to New York.
Yeah,
The
I was gonna
I
ask
just
about that.
yeah, I felt I like to visit New York. I don't think I want to live in New York unless there is like some kind of well-paying, once in a lifetime job opportunity there. I just like personally don't feel any like reason to live in that city. Um, and I really wanted to establish myself as like my own artist. I had this like feeling in my head of like I've been in school now with all of you all forever, and now our entire class is about to just like move to New York, and this is like competing like big time now. Like this was for grades, and now this is for jobs, and so
Yeah.
I'm not to be about here to like do that. So, and I really wanted, it was just really important for me to find like my own independent voice separately, um, outside of what everyone had been thinking who I am. And so I moved here and I only knew two people. I knew Tashara.
Wow.
Yeah, I knew Tashara from
Tashara. Aw.
VCU, and then I knew Just Right, and that was it.
Yeah.
Those are the only two people. Um, so it was it was hard. It was really hard, but I'm happy. I'm very happy like artistically in the city.
Yeah, well, you're still there, so it must have mean you found something to get into.
Yeah. That first like the first year, I think like that was like really a really dark year. And I remember geez, we're gonna drop so many VCU names. Melanie Richards, so one of our professors from VCU, I know, MJ Richards, came here for like the high school dance fest. Like they were doing some recruiting or something, and we went out to dinner. And I remember I had been here for like 9 months, and I was like, Melanie, like I'm dancing, but I'm not working, and I'm like kind of not fulfilled. I don't know, like I don't think these are my people, like and she like looked me like square in the face and was like, you need to give this place a year. Honestly, you need to give it like 2 years. And I was like shook, and I was like, what, like, and I like was lucky that when I moved here, Jess Wright, who we know from VCU, was in a dance company and she was leaving. And so I kind of like slid right into Jess's like spot in this company. So within the first like month and a half, 2 months of living here, I was in a dance company and I was dancing and performing, which was awesome and like deeply unheard of. But I
Yeah.
was like also like, I like to work, but like I don't know if this is it. And like, and I'm grateful that Melanie was like, no, give it some time. You'll find like it's gonna be some work, and she was absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's so rare that that year out of undergrad is like rosy and, for anyone. You don't like walk out and
Yeah,
everything's just like, although you want it to be, but it doesn't quite work out that way. But I
yeah,
feel like almost immediately my memories of coming to visit you, you were like busy as fuck and working and doing this. Like, I feel like I can't remember a time you were like, I don't have anything to do. You've always been like performing and doing this and doing that. And yeah,
Yeah.
or so it seems.
I got lucky with the moving architects in that they were such a established company here in Chicago that they were like the company like gave me lots of opportunities. And so
Yeah.
I think because of TMA, I was meeting other people. So like through the moving architects, I met my friend Laura, who was dancing with the Leopold group and was teaching at the studio. And like Laura got me a job teaching, and then she got me like in with the Leopold group, and then I TMA had this whole thing and like moved to New York, Jersey, and then I like joined the Leopold group, and it was like this really like kind of like ping pong zigzaggy like moment where I was just like
Yeah.
going through and just taking classes and trying to find what felt right to me, but like trying to stay busy as much as possible
Yeah.
and like trying to be in the community as much as possible.
Yeah. One of my earliest memories of visiting you was I think we did, is it called Thaw? This was a long time
Hmm.
ago. It's called Thaw, right?
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
Felix
Thaw.
came and Rachel Brady and Mel, and we all stayed in a hotel together. like
Yep.
like five of us in one bed in a big puppy pile. But I remember even in that weekend, I don't even remember what all we got into that weekend, but I remember feeling like that community was so solid and like I don't know. You really felt this like sense of community there that felt different than other places that I lived in. I mean, at
Yeah.
least from like someone coming in and just sort of being around such a big event for a weekend and then leaving, it really felt
Yeah.
like I don't know, some special cool thing was happening there. And that event was
Yeah.
just so fun and wild.
I know. God, it's changed so much since then. And
yeah.
the moving architects curated that year. So me and my friend Sarah and another company member at the time, Amanda, we like, we put the call out and got the applications and like went through everybody and watched all the things and like we
hmm
curated. And I remember being like, I want out of town people. And I remember being like, I have friends that can probably come and like having you all there. And it was like just that was a really fun weekend. And that like
yeah.
it's a fundraiser for a theater institution here called Links Hall. And they do Thaw every year as like their big major fundraiser. It's not the same anymore. Now like Thaw is like this year, well last year it was like online, but it's not that huge party. It's like definitely geared much more towards like donors and getting money and all that kind of
Oh.
stuff.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
this one was
yeah.
a party. I think
It was
one of
a
us
party.
performed at like 2 a.m. and like I had to like go find Felix because he disappeared out into some other thing happening.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that was a
wish it was
party.
like that still. Yeah.
I
I wish it was like that still.
think I remember Felix calling and being like, "I'm on a boat," and I was like, "How did you get to a boat? Like, what boat are you on right now?"
Sounds about right. That sounds about right. It gets wild.
oh,
It
it was
gets
so
very
good.
wild.
all right. So when I want to backtrack a little bit, but before I do, since we're here, when did you get involved with Fly Honeys? Tell me about Fly Honeys.
Oh, the Fly Honey show. I have like it's gonna go on my wall, but I have like fly honey, like honeycombs in my house all over and stuff. Um, I joined, damn, okay, time. Hold on, let me think about this. I joined Fly Honey in year 5 of them doing it. So we didn't do a show in obviously in 2020. So 2019 was the last year, math. So like 2013 I joined. 2012, 2013 I started dancing with the Fly Honey show. Um and that was truly like I think that's like the game changer possibly for me in that moment. I think Leopold Group and the Fly Honey show were like the two things where I was like, I have found my people finally.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, 5 years, six
How would you
years, 7 years
describe the
ago.
Fly Honey show, or just like what the Fly Honeys is? How would you describe it to people who have not heard of this show, this group, this
Yeah.
whatever you what do you call it, and how would you
The
describe
my my
it?
my elevator pitch for them.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
The Fly Honey show is a burlesque inspired cabaret show that amplifies body positivity and sex positivity from a feminist forward perspective. Um, we we do really cool like it's a community space that where everybody is literally welcome and where you can walk away like hopefully seeing yourself on stage and learning something as well. So it's grown. I mean, it grew from a one night, two show event to now the last time that we did it in year 10 was a 5 week and sold out run that had every show is different. So we have, God, here we go. We have like the core group of people that do all the shows, and then we have these rotating casts of Honey and Hive people, like ensemble members that rotate every weekend. Each weekend also has different featured artists that are musicians, other dancers, comedians, poetry. Um, God, what else? Oh, someone did weightlifting one year that was like blew my mind,
What?
phenomenal. Yeah, my friend Emily
That's amazing.
deadlifted. She was going for her new PR record of 350 pounds, and she had never done it before. And she did her like set her new PR on stage. It like I like wept. It was so incredible. It was so incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And then what makes the show is different every night because we call them the one night only. And so there's a one night only that comes in every show. So every show is different. It's really beautiful. It's really, really beautiful.
I don't remember which year I came. I wasn't that long ago, maybe like 2017 or
I
something.
think you came year 9. Did you come to the Den Theater? Do you remember if you were at the Den Theater?
I don't
Or were
remember
you?
what the name of the theater was, but
Mhm.
I remember that it was like the best performance experience I've ever sat inside of. Like from the second I walked in, I was like, this is exactly what performance can do that I
Yeah,
hardly ever see anywhere. It was like literally every body, every kind of expression. Like it was like this is the magic shit.
yeah. And then
Yeah,
there's
I'm such a
the
fan
live
of the
band.
Lionies.
It's so
Yeah.
good. And like the live
Sounds
band,
amazing.
yeah, you're
Yeah, the
making me
band, it's so crafted and so it was like hilarious. And Alexa Gray, I think, was performing the night I was
yes.
there. And I was like, what magical unicorn is this? Like it was, yeah, it was like
I
there's
have
it's
to
so
go.
yeah, it's so well designed and choreographed. And you all are just like ferocious and amazing. Yeah. I could
Thank
go
you.
on and on with praise for this show. Is there anything has COVID kind of like really messed up plans, or is there anything on the horizon that we can look forward to from the Fly Hennies
I mean,
that you can say?
COVID, yeah, that's the key.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, you don't have to say anything.
COVID really gave us the um opportunity to kind of like reflect and be like, this is what the show has grown into in 10 years. What I really appreciate about Erin, her name's Erin Kilmurray. She's the creator and the director of the show. And what I love with working with Erin is that she's always asking like the question of like, why are we doing this? And like, why does it have to be the Fly Honeys doing these dances, saying these words, doing this show? Like, what is our lens? What is our focus? Like, why does it have to be us? And that constantly makes us come back. Like, I'm a part of the choreography team, and I'm an associate choreographer along with another woman named Casey Alfonso, and Erin is the head. It's the three of us that do all the choreography for the Honeys and the cast, and then there's a separate person that does stuff for the Hive. But I appreciate that we are always like coming in and being like, how can we be better, and why does it have to be us? And that's like what makes me want to return to be like, and it makes me ask this question like, why do I want to do this show again? Like, why am I
Yeah,
like, and why is my body important to tell this story? Um,
yeah,
and I appreciate like the growth of it. And so COVID gave us the opportunity to kind of reflect and be like, what did we learn? Who are we? What did we learn? Where do we want to go with this? And so last year we did a series of online like Instagram live classes where we taught like choreography. We called it Honey from Home, where you could like
yeah.
sign on to Instagram, and like Casey Aaron or I would be teaching, and we would teach you like material from past shows. And and then we did Live from the Hive, where we had like a listening party when we like highlighted like um featured artists in the band, which was like one of my favorites. Just I like
Yeah.
that was really cool. And then we did the DIY fly last year, where it was like kind of like a digital dance production where we like showed old like clips, and then we also like did this like music video to WAP where we had honeys and hive members like film themselves from home and like doing the dance, and it was a lot of fun. Just to give like we knew like we're missing the show, we know that's the summer, it's usually fly honey, so like we can't gather, so like here is this gift. um and this year we're still we say we're resting our wings, and like we're still trying to reflect, and like I think the biggest thing that we're talking about right now is like we're not the same. Like none of us are the same out of in this pandemic. And so it feels like we have to rise to like this new time. And there's things coming. I can't say, but there's things coming. So like I'm also on the marketing team. I'm the social media manager. So I'll tell you, like people have been like DMing us and being like, what's happening? And
Yeah.
my response is like, the honeys are still resting their wings. We appreciate the love and asking. Any announcements around the show will be on our social media challenges. So keep following us. Stay fly.
Brilliant. Okay.
So
Good.
Yes.
cute.
Yes.
I have a question. What
Yeah.
is the difference between the honeys and the hive?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the honeys are more of we say like femme identifying like bodies on stage, and the hive is more of our mask allyship. They're there to like amplify the work that the honeys are doing and that the cast is doing, the featured artists. They have their own dance, and the we also have gender non-conforming bodies, and so we we're not going to ever put anybody in a position of being like you have to be in the hive or you have to be a honey. But the biggest difference is those two things.
That's amazing. Yeah, I really resonate with what you're saying that about that you're all different. There's no way you can just go back and do the same show you used to do now and like
Yeah,
just pretend like everything is the same. But I think that's yeah, there's something also pretty exciting about that sort of
yeah.
transformative moment, whether or not we wanted it.
Yeah,
But
and
it's
I think it's
happening.
it's it's what's happening, and I think
Yeah.
it would be irresponsible as a project if we didn't like recognize
Yeah.
that, and like well where do we fit in this now?
Yeah. Totally. I want to get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty of Chicago dance and stuff you're up to now. But actually,
Hmm.
before we do that, I'll sort of put a pin in that. I want to go back a little bit and just ask you about dance trajectory in a very kind of general way. Way back to
Yeah.
little baby Alyssa, how did you get into dance and how did you kind of end up in whatever form of dance it is that you kind of exist in now? What does that trajectory look like?
Yeah, I started dancing when I was 5. Crap. Okay. So I was a ballerina for Halloween one year. And I like refused to kind of take the costume off. And so it was like a situation where I would like come home from school and like change my clothes and like put it back on. And my mom was like, maybe there's something here because I was I'm an only child. I was an indoor kid. I was like nerdy and like to write and like I had like wild, huge imagination growing up. I think that's the only child thing where you like don't have anyone else around, so you're like,
Yeah.
I gotta talk to myself in these dolls.
Yeah.
Um,
All your
and
imaginary friends and worlds in your
yeah,
head.
so many, so many. There was no way I could not be a creative. So my mom put me into dance in that way. And so like one class turned into two, which turned into three, which turned into me being there like 5 days a week, like all, like that whole life. Um, and I think I realized in like junior, senior year when I was about to apply for school, I was like, well, yeah, I'm gonna obviously go into school for dance. And I did the whole, application and had the big Purchase and Fordham and like that whole thing. And then
Mhm.
I like went to VCU and I was like, actually, this is definitely much more of my vibe. Like,
Yeah.
loved Purchase, Fordham, great, Emory, like all these places that I was looking at. And I was like, actually, I just really like VCU
I
and I really like
loved
Richmond.
VCU. I loved Richmond.
Yeah.
I loved VCU. I loved it so much. I think
Yeah.
it's so special.
It's so special. And I felt that school was big enough that I felt like I was getting like the college experience,
Yeah.
but also small enough that I was like, oh, I'm not just going to be a body. Like, I'm going to spend
Yeah.
years with these folks and I'm going to get to know them.
Yeah.
And so when I when I started VCU, the first, I think you'll remember this. You will definitely remember this journey. I was there for the first semester, and like I remember Scott Putman, um, in like ballet. He like put his hand at the bar and he was like, if this doesn't feel like home to you, then you don't belong here. And I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. Actually, I think I made a mistake. I think I majored in my hobby.
Ah.
Whoops. I'm actually much more interested in journalism. And so I left and
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I left and I was a journalism major for an entire year. And I
It's okay, you can cuss.
hate it. Okay, cool. Great. I fucking hated it. I
Yeah.
hated just like I loved the schedule. Like I didn't have classes on Mondays or Fridays. My earliest class was like noon. Like I had like the
No
life.
dancing for 99 hours a day.
Exactly. And I was like, oh, I'm so rested and da, 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 da. But then actually going to class, I was like the jittery one in the back where I just like couldn't sit still. And I was like, there's something missing kind of. And so I like did that year and then I was like, and I was like, actually, maybe I don't want to be into journalism. Actually, maybe I want to be a social worker. I think that would be like much more fulfilling to me. So then I was a social work major for one semester, and
Whoa. Yeah.
yeah, and I loved the work. But
Yeah.
then I had a professor. I really wish I could remember her name, but I had this one professor, and she was talking to me. She found out that I was a dancer, and she asked, like, have you ever considered dance therapy? And I was like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, this actually like I can help people and I can be dance and da 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 da. And then I was like, do I need a dance degree? And she was like, not necessarily, but I think that you actually want one. And she could
Mm.
kind of see that
Yeah.
I was actually a dancer. And so in my brain, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to finish my dance degree and then I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to grad school for social work and then I'm going to do dance therapy and then it's supposed to be the whole thing. I get
Yeah.
to,
And
yeah.
then
And then
45 years later, after you finish school.
right? And then I remember going back, and there was a semester when I was a social work major that semester. I was also a dance minor,
Okay.
and I
So you were
remember
still
going.
taking some
I was
classes.
still taking some. I was like taking Miss Massey's ballet class and like
Oh, yeah.
stars modern and like and then I was that's when I was like, oh shit, I do miss this. And then I just came back. James made me re-audition, which I'm like,
That's so
that was
funny.
fucked up. That was
James
fucked up. And
Frazier
he
for
was
the
like,
listeners.
James Frazier, yes, James Frazier, who I love. Like that's like a big I owe that man a lot. He was very patient and very kind with me. But James was like, you have to re-audition, and I was like, fine, I'll do this. And so then I came back and I was a dance major and then I finished but I feel like that year and a half definitely allowed me to grow up and like I came back with so much more appreciation and I took it much more seriously than I would have if I had just done the 4 years.
Yeah,
I was just definitely much more mature. I think that's the best way to describe it.
totally.
I was just much more mature, and could be more focused on the actual like what was happening and being more present in the program. Um, and so then when it came time to graduate, I knew I didn't want to go to New York, and Scott's from
Oh,
the
that's right.
suburbs.
Scott was from
Scott's from
Chicago.
Schaumburg. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's from Chicago, and he has like Columbia connections and stuff. And he was also like James and Scott and Melanie were like my like ride or dies in the program. And um Scott was like, I think you would go to, I think just go out to Chicago and see if you like it. And so my senior year, I went out to Chicago and I just took like a couple classes here, my mom and I was here for 1 week and then I signed a lease in that week. And
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, it was like, and I remember
Fast.
like fast. And I remember like signing the lease and I had like a very shaky hand and I was like, I'm doing this. And my mom was like, you're fine. And I
It's
was like,
so
oh, I
exciting.
was like, oh my God, I'm moving here. I know, like, and I think at VCU is when I really realized that like contemporary modern is my movement. I had been this like jazz dancer and like my studio had like kind of put me in this like you're a jazz dancer type hole and I had
Yeah.
gone with that mentality. And then when I got to VCU I was like, oh my God, there's this whole contemporary modern thing. Like we didn't have those classes at my studio, so like I discovered it and I was like, what, you can, I can just like do this movement and like this is so freeing. And um so coming here to Chicago and discovering like contemporary dance and like the various wide form of it was really, really amazing. But I will say now I teach dance and I've been teaching since I was like 16 and I never really liked teaching ballet, but after leaving VCU, I will say Scott Putman like made me like fall in love with the ballet, and I love teaching ballet now. And I think there's for me there's this thing in ballet, especially being a dance educator, that I'm like there's a lot of shame around being like I like ballet, especially as like a black
Oh,
dancer.
yeah.
And that and people are like, "What?" Like that, and like that dance form does not like me. That dance form was not built for me. That dance
Yeah.
form is just getting around to like appreciating my body and in bodies like mine and people that look like me, and they're just getting hip to that. And I'm like, oh no, I think one of my purposes is to be this black ballet teacher that's like, you can love something and make it fit and feel good for you. You can like, I like the way ballet makes me feel disciplined and I like the way that my body looks and I like the way that it like the control and how I like how hard it is. And it's not
Yeah.
to say that other dance forms aren't that,
Yeah.
but there's something about ballet
That
now that,
resonates with me.
yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
glad. And like, I mean, I talk to more like black dancers, and they're like, "Yeah, I do like ballet," and I'm like, "We should, like we have to say that. We have to say that." And like, I look at my students, and I tell them, I'm like, "I love teaching ballet. I like teaching ballet. I like taking ballet class. Like, I like if I could just take ballet bar every day, I would do it. I
Yeah.
would do that." And there is, and I can tell that my students are like, "Oh." Like, and I'm like, yeah, this is why I like it. Like, why do you like, we don't have to have the same reasons why we
Yeah.
like this.
Right.
And it's really important that we don't, honestly, because I want you to figure this out for yourself. So I'm in this moment now where I'm definitely trying to like not feel as much shame around loving to teach ballet. Um, and also like I'm also in this moment where I'm trying to figure out like what what else is there inside of my own movement. I'm really into um improv right now and like quick and dirty improv performances. And I think I got some of that from VCU, but I think that's also like unfinished work, I think is really interesting to me at this moment. So
Yeah.
it's a very
Totally.
long answer to your question.
No, it's great. I mean, I think we could just talk for 5 more hours about whatever, all of these things. There's so much in what you just said that I could ask more about. Like, yeah, I mean, even improvisation, I feel like in this moment, because we have to improvise every day right now on like a very embodied level, just like walking into the store and navigating people who, whatever, aren't wearing masks or being asshole. Like, I feel like
Hmm.
there's so much improvisational, embodied life living that it makes sense to me that improvising right
Yeah.
now feels like a good practice or something, or even the like kind of unfinished performance that you mentioned is like that makes sense right now when like everything
Yeah.
feels sort of like pending or unfit or like I don't know. It's
Hmm.
it's interesting how like the times kind of change our practices or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. Um, But I feel, yeah, I mean, I feel very similarly about ballet because I never had ballet. So ballet for me was always the thing that told me I'm not a dancer because I would show up
Mhm.
to ballet and they would just be like, "What the fuck are you doing, Charlie? Like that's not first position." I just like had no idea what the language is. And so it's taken me probably until like 2 or 3 years ago to, if I can think about ballet just as like, where are my bones at? And like as like the
Mhm.
challenge, because I think I also love it. Like as just for the not, I don't love its history, I don't love its white
Yeah.
supremacy, I don't love its like all of this baggage, but just like as the form, it's so specific and clear, and like
Mhm.
it gives, I love the repetition of it, like it's such a I and so yeah, I feel you on that, and it's interesting. I haven't had that conversation or heard anyone else thinking about like the sort of shame around liking ballet for different reasons, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's really interesting. And Marseille, you take ballet, right? Do you
Yes, I
yeah.
too love ballet. I
Yeah.
too was in studio, and they were like, "You're gonna leave tap." Flint is a tap place. You're
Mm.
gonna not take tap and take ballet. What is wrong with you? And
Yeah.
I wound up teaching it. Like everything you said, I just resonate so much with.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad. So glad.
All right, so let's get into now. So what, I know you're up to a lot. Yeah, you're up to a lot of stuff right now. But what are some of the kind of major projects you have going on? I know you have the podcast, virtual
Mhm.
toolbox, you're involved with maps, right? And you have like all
Yeah.
of this stuff. So what are the kind of major things taking up your day right now?
Right now, the biggest thing is the podcast. So I have the podcast called The Process. I received some funding back in October, November, December of 2020. There's a dance maker here. Her name is Anjul Chande, and we had been like circling each other like in the community for a while, and we were starting to like DM on Instagram like a little bit more frequently. And then we kind of decided to we were like, let's just have like a little happy hour FaceTime Zoom moment. And then they kind of turned into like some semi regularly conversations about just the Chicago dance community and the dance community in general and frustrations and feelings. And I mentioned the podcast to her, and she is the director of a space here called Soham Dance Space. And so Anjul was like, Soham is doing this pilot program where we help produce a Black artist's work for like a whole year. And the Black artist and a South Asian artist. And so she was like, can I produce your podcast? And I was like, hell yeah. Like, yes. Yeah, I have no idea what to do. So like, yes, yes. And in that same time, organization here called Chicago Dance Makers Forum, we decided to do this thing called digital dance grants. And so I applied to receive a digital dance grant and receive funding from that. And so made a podcast called The Process. And the process is for dancers, dance makers, and all around booty shakers. And we are going to talk about a work that you have either danced in or you helped create. I am really The process of work has always been like really fulfilling and like beautiful to me. And it's something that only the dancers and the dance makers hold, which is really beautiful and tender. But I also think the outside community should know how dance is made. It is not just showing up and 5, 6, 7, 8 and like we spend months or years on a project, and like there is deep conversations and thoughts and planning
And
and all these
labor,
things and labor,
like
so much
emotional
labor,
labor, financial labor, like all of the yeah.
all of it. And so I think what there's like three goals kind of that I have with the process is like and I'm focusing on like independent, and that's my definition of what an independent dance maker is. So I'm not going to talk to Hubbard Street. I'm not going to talk to the Joffrey or the Visceral Dance Center. Like y'all have a platform and people love you and you tour out. Like you don't need this. And so I want to talk to independent dance makers. And so like people that raise their own money, people that like do DIY projects and like, or like, like people that have like very kind of like limited resources. And then a second goal is for those people to have that platform to like have a voice to talk about their work, that isn't writing for a grant, or is it writing about like what just happened?
Did we lose you? We can hear
Oh,
you.
someone's hold on 1 second.
Oh, no, no worries. Multitasking
Yeah.
technology.
Sorry, my phone was ringing. My bad, and that's
No
what
worries.
happened. Are we okay? Are we back?
Yeah, yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So I also want to give these dancers and dance makers this platform to talk about their work that doesn't feel so like stuffy. That's the best word I can say right now. And then it's also I want to have the outside world like kind of turn their focus in on Chicago and like hear Chicago dancers talking about it.
Yeah.
That's not in a dance review, like hear it from the person's actual mouth, what their intention was, what their process was. Um, so I'm releasing them in volumes. I decided to release them in volumes. So each volume has 3 episodes, and my goal is to try to have it kind of touch all different sides of the dance community. So I have a contemporary dancer, and then I had a musical theater choreographer, and I had a burlesque performer also. And I had uh I also like my second volume was all femme identifying dancers of color. That was just like really important to me to be like, look at all this, like look at all these people that are here, um, to just kind of show the wide variety that is in Chicago dance. So that I'm beginning the work for volume 3. We'll see what happens. So volume
Exciting.
3 hopefully will show up in September. Um, yeah,
It's
that's
amazing.
like the biggest thing. That's the thing that's taking up most of my time right now. I'm not really performing, and I had to sit with myself, and be like, that's okay that I don't know the next time I'm gonna perform. It was easy to be like, okay, this is happening because the world is in a timeout, so we can't perform. And now that like the outside is kind of opening up, I was like, oh, when am I gonna perform? And I actually don't know. And that was like a weird thing to like sit with, that I don't know when's the next
Do
time
you
I'm gonna
miss it? Do
perform.
you miss performing? Like,
I
is there a part of you
do.
that's like, I want to get back to this? Yeah,
I do miss performing. I miss being in a process. I miss like being in that community. I miss, having the like performance high. Like
totally.
I miss the like after show chats at the bar and everything like that. Like I do miss it, but I think it's also really okay that I don't know. And then when I do perform again, it will be great. It will be totally fine. Um, and I'm also teaching, which is really fulfilling. And I teach in the northern suburbs here, so that's also where I can like put my energy towards like my students, and that feels really good to me also.
That's incredible. I was thinking as you were talking, I think it was the second point you raised about giving artists a place to talk about their process. That's not writing for grants, because we all know that can be such bullshit, especially when you're
Yeah.
writing for a grant for like a year from now and you haven't even started and you're just making shit up. You don't know what you're gonna do,
Yeah.
or when someone else is writing about it. And also, it made me think that's when so much like dance writing or dance critiquing comes in with like companies that come from out of Chicago into Chicago and perform at the MCA and get written about, but they're not based in
Yeah.
Chicago.
You're
And
not based in
so,
Chicago.
yeah,
There was
so like, yeah, I'm really into everything that's driving this podcast that you're working on.
Yeah.
And the people you've talked to so far, has anything been illuminated? Or, I mean, I know that there's the article that came out that we can also talk about. But I'm curious, in terms of like the actual artists you've talked to, have they illuminated like any sort of trends and like, I don't know, resources or things that are working well or that aren't working at all, or like things that people are
Yeah.
demanding, etc.
Yeah, I have this section that I call the cool down, where I ask like the community, like I put it on Instagram, like, what do you want to ask people about their process? And that's really fun because like it brings the community in. But I also, the very end, I have these like same 5 questions that I ask every guest. And the very last question that I ask is, what is your hopes and dreams for the Chicago dance community?
Yeah.
And that question has given like a wide breadth of like different answers of from everybody about what they want, what they see, what they don't see. And I think that question is really special to me because I think that one, it gives the guests like speak your truth. Like this is where you can be unfiltered and speak your fucking truth. And two, I think it is doing some work for these presenters and curators and institutions and funders, and to be like, listen to what the artists are saying. Like,
Yeah, it's like
are
it's
you
all right
paying
here.
attention?
Here you
It's
are.
all
Yeah.
here's I've done the work for you,
You've
baby.
done
Like,
the work
here
for
you
you,
go.
even though
Here
it
you
shouldn't be
go.
your job. You've done it.
Not yeah, I'm doing this work so we all can be better.
Yeah.
And so that I think that question is, it's a lot of like representation, sharing of resources, curation, like expectations and needs and stuff like that, accessibility, like all of these things that everybody is fighting for. Um, but it's just, I think it hits harder when you hear these artists like say it with their words.
Yeah, and it's recorded on a platform, and that's sort of like material, not
Hmm.
visibility because you don't see it, but that it's like, this like thing in the world you can't look away from, where it's like, oh, it's right
Yeah,
here, here it is. Like,
like,
it's all you have to do is listen, and if you choose not to listen, that is 100% on you. And so it gives it this
absolutely.
like very tangible, like, it's not just a voice in the ether or like, we heard people say this. It's like, well, here's
Yeah,
the tape, listen to
listen to
it.
it.
Which is
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we can or cannot talk about the
Let's do
article that
it.
came out in response to the process. I'm gonna kind of leave that up to you. If you're like done talking about this thing or done,
Oh, let's
um,
go. Let's go.
okay,
Let's
can you
go.
fill our audience in on however much information you would like to reveal about kind of what happened when this article came out after the release of I think it was the statement that released all of the funding projects. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Can you just fill everyone
So
in?
yeah, so from February 1st, they announced the digital dance grants. And so CDF announced who won the digital dance grants. And then on February 2nd, um, a writer here, her name is Lauren Warnicki. She is one of like the bigger writers for dance in the city of Chicago. She writes for the Tribune. She writes for this platform here called See Chicago Dance, and she writes for I think maybe another public or sometimes Dance Magazine also.
Which are all
Um,
big, the big publications, right? Yeah, those are
yeah,
like the
yeah,
big ones in dance,
the
and
big
then Dance
ones.
Magazine. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so she wrote this article kind of basically being like, do we need this? And look at all these digital dance things, like cool. And her take on it was like, does the audience, will the audience care about this? And it was a majority of dancers, or excuse me, makers of color. Um, and she just really kind of went in on like this type of stuff. Like the audience doesn't care. Like people that watch the Nutcracker are like not going to care about process work. And and you can read the article if you want. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
can I
Like,
post? Is it okay if I kind of share it on
yeah,
the page of?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally,
Okay.
totally, totally.
Okay.
And so it really pissed me off. I'll be quite frank. It really pissed me off because number one, Lauren has the biggest voice and such a platform. And like, I literally hadn't even gotten 24 hours to feel joy about my new project. And this person came in and was like, I don't know, is this important? And like, do people care about this? And like, what about people who like the Nutcracker? And like, and there was just so much coded language in there of
Yeah.
like the Nutcracker is, first of all, like you shouldn't have, like the Nutcracker needs to go. Like we should be done. Lauren Warnicki
Who even
does. She
talks
loves
about
it.
the Nutcracker anymore? Also, has Lauren been living under a rock for the
Nope.
last year? Like, no, no
And then
critical
like here
thinking about
you
how
want to
to
bring it, you
approach
want to
any
talk
of this?
about a piece of work that is dripping in white supremacy and like problematic behavior, but go ahead. That's on you, girl. And so it was also this thing of um, making art for the audience. And I was like, my work is not for the audience. My work is actually in this time, Lauren, is trying to help the artist find a reason or some inspiration to get back in the studio. We have just suffered a tremendous loss, and we all need to go back to one and be like, why the fuck do we do this? And why do I find joy in this? And like, how can I make this happy for me? And so for her to insinuate that like art is only art for the audience, I was like, fuck that. And how dare you, biggest voice in this city, like question me like this? Like, you're coming for me. I haven't even done anything, you know? Um, and so the article came out, and I posted about it. I used my platform on Instagram and Facebook and kind of wrote a response, and it ignited other people to be like, yeah, fuck that. Like, yeah, this is a problem, and like, how dare
Yeah.
her? And it got this community response. And what was interesting to me is that Lauren chose really not to say anything until enough people. And I think certain people said something to her, like, you have to respond to this. Like, you are being tagged and brought, like,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Um, you have to say something.
You
And
have to
her
do something.
response
Yeah.
was, it is, her response was just, I'll just say like a white woman response of just like, I'm so sorry. And the work, and I'm not my intention. And I was like, fuck you, bitch. Like, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. And I just ran out of patience. And, Lauren, my histories with Lauren is also really
Yeah.
complicated. And like, this person has, oh,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, yes.
So you
She
knew
has
her before
and that's
this.
also the thing is like, Lauren has a
Oh, okay. Yeah.
history
Okay.
of coded racist language. She has a
Okay.
history of like promoting ballet before anything. She has a particular eye, and like, you are completely okay to
Yeah.
have a particular eye and something that you lean to more towards, but you will not make that what Chicago dance has to be and the standard. That's not acceptable.
Yeah.
And so it 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 just kept getting bigger and bigger. And i was I was happy that people were talking about it. I was happy that people were tagging her and being like, you need to explain yourself. Like, not in the year 2021 is this going to be acceptable. And she's gotten away with a lot of things for so many. I mean, like, she wrote about the Fly Honey show but didn't stay for the whole show. She left at intermission, but still wrote a review of it. And it's like, that's irresponsible. Like, where are your
That's
journalistic,
garbage.
like, your ethics? Like, you can't write about a show
No
if you didn't see the
integrity.
whole thing. No integrity. Yeah. And so this person has just
Fuck
gotten
no.
away with a
Yeah.
lot. And like, I have said things, and we all, the community will like, we'll have our moments and we'll say it to ourselves. But I was like, absolutely not. I'm really proud of this project. You will not come for me. You will not make this like about the fucking Nutcracker and your shit. Like, no, no. Um,
And
so
she's
there's
right. No one cares about the process of the Nutcracker. It's been done.
bye. The Nutcracker has got to go. It's done. It's done. So God, it just makes me so mad. And
I'm
no,
so sorry
it's
we're
fine.
making you go back through it right now.
I'm,
We love you.
at one point I was like, I don't want to talk about this because I don't want to give this person the time. But now I like look at it and I'm like, actually, no, I
Yeah.
want to talk about it because this person is still writing. And the Lauren and I did have a
Yeah.
conversation with a mediator there, and I left feeling just like, all right, like, she didn't really learn anything. She didn't really understand the gravity of what she's done. She, pushed back in a lot of ways that I was like, you just don't fucking get it. And either you get it and it's safer for you to not get it. And so you can keep living this like ignorance and keep going, and I asked her questions like,
Yeah.
what anti-racism training have you done? None. What anti-racism training have you done for dance writing? None. And it's just like, it's like that. And I'm like,
Will
how
you?
does will you? Are you going to? Do
Where
you
have you
does
been?
this
Will
tell
you?
you anything? And it was just like it was not. Like I said, I walked away being like, "Nah, all right,
Oh, I'm so sorry that that all happened. And yeah, I mean, the very least she could have done is commit to doing something. Well, a
something."
thing.
And
A
she was like,
one
"Well,
thing, anything.
I'm pulling back from writing. I'm not going to be writing as
No, she
much
won't.
anymore." And I'm like, "Bitch, I saw you post something the other day. Like you're writing. You're writing. And just because it's not on the level that you were doing, just because you're
Yeah.
writing like one or two here and there, that's not doing the work. That's not the
Yeah.
work actually. The work is
And also she
you.
could now write on behalf of this of your work. Like she's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
now I understand I have this platform. Like ask you, how can I help
Mhm.
now?" And so yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really sorry that you had to go through all that shit. And
You know,
also, I think it's such a kind of shining example that we all now have. I mean, like I remember getting wind of this and I was like, what the fuck is happening in Chicago right now? But then I also was like, oh, well, like this happens here. This happens in my university. This happens in Ann Arbor. Like I was, yeah. And so in some ways, it's a very clear example we can all pull from now and use and be like, hey, don't do this thing that happened. And also check your racist coded language. Like that should
yeah.
just be a given if you're gonna put some shit on the internet and like learn what
Yeah.
that means because I don't think she knows. I don't think a lot of writers know.
Yeah.
Um,
I think a lot of
yeah,
dance writers just be like, well, my job, and like she said that she's like, my job is to come in and just write. And I'm like, actually, say your face.
I'm
Like,
sorry.
that's not your job. Your job is
so
to represent and yes, you can give a critique, but your job is not to be racist. Your job is not to like talk so bad about a work that you can I said to stand in the way of a person getting funding in the future. If you're the biggest
yeah,
voice in the city of Chicago dance and I am trying to get write a grant and they're asking for articles that have been written about me and I only have this type of stuff from you, you've stood in the way of my career now. So now we have a big problem. So what are you
yeah,
going to do if you're a part of this community, whether you think you are or not? So you can have your opinion, but recognize your platform and your power that you will affect other dancers and dance makers in their future. That is a huge responsibility to hold. Um, I don't want that responsibility, but she had you. I don't want personally want that responsibility. But I told Lauren like you have that, and you have to like come to terms with that.
yeah.
So, but there was a good thing that ended up coming out of it was the give me article like Eva from the give me contacted me and was like I saw this happening, do you want to write about a response? And I was so thankful to have a platform of that magnitude
Yeah.
to write something and like name it and like be like this is what went the fuck down and this is my response to it. And just like Lauren's article lives in
Yep.
the interwebs, my article lives now in the
It's
interwebs, and so
archived in
it's
that Give
archived.
Me issue,
Hmm.
I think. Like I think it's in the fifth issue or
The fifth
something
issue,
that because they're
yeah.
doing those issues now. Yeah. And so, yep, it's there. It's archived, and it's a resource for so many of us now when
Yeah.
shit is happening to be like, look, let's not repeat this. Here's
Yeah.
an example of what not to do.
Yes, is an example of what not to
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
But I am so sorry that happened. That sucks.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it all with us
Of
again.
course, of course. It set the fire in me, and then I'm like, man,
Yeah, anger
wow,
fire.
anger fire for sure.
I can feel it. Yeah.
Also, I just had this flash of a memory. This is a change of subject, but I just had this flash of a memory of because you were in my senior project, which I like hardly remember my senior project, but I remember it being very jazzy, which is very unusual for me. And then we had a showing, I think, one time, and it's like very, very jazzy and performative in a way that I don't think of most of my work then. But I remember James watched the showing, and it was really close to the show. I don't know if you'll remember this, and he was like, all of your dancers have to perform like Alyssa or this is never gonna work because it was like so like da 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 and like whatever, like it was very, I think it was very queer, and there was like I don't know, but he it was
Yeah,
like very campy. And he was like, if you're gonna do this, they have to like ham it up as much as Alyssa is, or this is never gonna work. And I
Thank you,
remember going to
James.
the yeah, I don't know. That's totally off topic. I just for all of a sudden had this flash of a memory of James being like, they have to do it as good as Alyssa. Anyway, funny.
Thank you, James Frazier. I needed a
I wish I had a video of that, just or any of our VCU videos that I could plug in. Maybe I'll try to. I'm sure I've got some somewhere.
I'm
I'm
sure.
gonna try to find some.
Yeah.
I don't know, or maybe those can just die forever. There's some videos I probably don't ever need to see again.
I definitely want to see.
I remember your senior project. I remember Felix going across the stage singing Boys to Men, I'll Make Love to You.
Oh my
And this
God,
really like I'll make love to you. It was so
that's right.
good though. And
Oh, I forgot.
and Corinne saying
There's
Manic
a lot of
Monday.
singing. I
There was a
forgot there was
lot
so
of
much singing.
Yeah.
Did you
created
sing?
a musical.
It was kind of a musical.
Yeah.
Did you sing?
I
Did you sing with Mel?
sang with Mel. I sang with
remember
Mel.
what you sang.
I don't remember what song.
It was like one line of a song.
Yeah, but I did sing with Mel. Yeah.
Oh my God! Now I want to find it. Cute. Where are we on time? We've been talking for an hour. No.
Wow.
All right. Well, I think I want to ask you then a question that you ask, which is, what's your Chicago dance dream? Or, yeah. I'll just leave it that simple. What's your Chicago dance dream?
Chicago dance. I would love if Chicago dance took 1 year to just pause. And these like institutions and funders and stuff, if they took 1 year and were like, hey, we have a lot of work to do. We're gonna hold some programming, but not that much. And the money that we received to do all this stuff, we're just gonna do it in like micro grants and feed the community. And while this is all happening, we're gonna go back and we're gonna develop a 3 to 5 year strategic plan for anti-racism, like inclusion. Like we're gonna do some deep work. And then after this year is over, we're gonna come back and we're gonna give you the report and we're gonna tell you what our plans are and then how we can move forward.
And ask for your feedback. Wouldn't that be a dream?
And that's like, I think there's just this like misstep that I think a lot of, and not just in Chicago, but I see it here, institutions just like, the problem is racism and diversity. Got it. I'll fix it. I'll put this black square up. I'll make this statement. And now we're only going to do these artists of color. Ta-da, we fixed it. And I'm like, oh, baby, that's not it. That's not it at all. Now you're just tokenizing me. So like now we have another problem to solve, you know? And so I want them to just like stop trying to put band-aids on the problem and pull back and listen to us, and we're telling you what we need and what we want, and give you and like and then you can do what you want or what you need to do with that information. I think that Chicago really needs some sort. I have this dream of like some kind of like artist led coalition or something that like I'm like I will take on Links Hall, and Aaron, you've got CDF, and Hannah, you're gonna work with like the dance center, and like we're gonna like sit with this organization and like be like, here are all the things that the community, I'm representing the community, has said and needed, and here's what you can do, here's this information. I'm gonna be with you for a whole year and figure out how this is gonna be. And I'm gonna get paid. And I just want like Chicago dance. There's two, like I'm gonna say two things. I want Chicago dance to stop and listen and do some hard work. And I want the Chicago dancers and dance makers to keep fucking doing what they're doing. And like keep amplifying each other, keep doing dance in these like non-concert dance spaces. Like I like some of the best dances I've seen have been in bars or in like these like tiny art like little corners of, or outdoors. And like I want Chicago dancers and dance makers to keep doing what they're doing, to keep making themselves happy. And I think that we can have a tendency to be like, well, I need this funding from so and so I can get this and X, Y, and Z. And it's like, yeah, that's cool, but what you're already doing is cool. It's
Yeah.
already great.
Right. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
you don't need them, they need you
Yeah.
then that's like they need you. Um so yeah, that's what I want for
Oh,
Chicago
I have
Dance.
so much love for you right now. I feel like so all of this is it applies everywhere. I mean, part of my interest for this kind of conversation in this podcast is like it doesn't have to be New York or LA. We don't need
Hmm.
five venues that everyone's fighting for. Like
Yeah.
we can make new infrastructure and it can be a lot of places and look like a lot of different things. And I feel like that's really speaking to this. Like you're already doing you do you. We'll build this
Yeah.
new thing and then make them need um yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. You're
How can
amazing.
the audience access the process?
The
Or you?
process, yeah. So the process is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and a lot of other wherever podcast platforms. Um, the process website is theprocesspod.com, and the Instagram is the dot process dot podcast. Yeah. I know my Instagram. I know the Instagram.
I
I
think
know
if you
the
just
Instagram.
type in the process
The
podcast,
process.
something pops
Yeah.
up. I think
Something
that's how I
pops
found
up.
it.
Yeah. 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 So that's the best way to keep in touch with what's going on with that. Follow the Fly Honeys because, like I said, something is cooking, but so just keep your eyes out.
I'm
Um,
following everything you're doing.
thank
I'm
you,
sold.
thank you. Yeah, that's the spiel.
Yay. There's one final question that can be really short and it's very different topic. What are you watching right now or listening to or what's like some media that you're into right now? TV show, movie, whatever, something that you're into. Book.
I oh God, this is so losery. Um, so I love TV. I love TV and movies. Again, an only child, so like I had TV and movies playing all the time. Um, so I right now I'm finishing Shameless. I was like a
Oh
big
my god.
I'm on season 10 right now.
Holy
I'm on
shit.
season 10 of Shameless finally. I'm really into like right now like episodic long TV shows. So I watched all of The West Wing for the first time and that was
Oh.
fascinating to
I've never
watch.
seen it.
It's actually really good. It's really good. It's really
Okay.
good. I
West
loved it.
Wing is old, not old, but
It's on
like
HBO. It's
older.
old. Oh, it's so
It's
old.
not
It's
new, right?
old. It's
Okay, yeah,
old.
yeah, yeah.
It's
Okay, I'm
very.
not
It's like early, like late '90s, early
Oh, I
2000s.
love
Like
late 90s TV. It's so strange and
it's
weird.
so strange and weird. It's very strange and weird. So that's pretty much it. And um, I've been watching like all kinds of movies with my boo right now, and like that's a big thing that like we watch all kinds of sorts of movies together. Um, I did watch Alien, all three Aliens for the first time. That was wild. I watched all of the Marvel movies. It was bad. Aliens was crazy. So I'm like a little bit of everywhere, but my like my secret love is reality TV.
Which one?
I
F
love
Boy
the
Island.
I love the Real Housewives.
Oh, you do. Yes. That's
Especially
amazing.
the Real Housewives of Atlanta. So I'm all
Yeah.
caught up on the Real Housewives. So that's also what
Amazing.
I'm doing. Yeah.
Amazing.
But I listen to a lot of podcasts also. Um, so I listen to this podcast called The Daily. It's with the New York Times. It is one of my favorite podcasts where they take something like that's happening in current events and talk about it. It's like a 45-minute long podcast. The host is Michael Barbaro. I love his voice and I just appreciate all the
Cool.
questions that he asks. If anything, definitely listen to the Simone Biles episode. Such a good
Oh,
episode. Such a good
okay.
episode. And I also listen
Cool.
to this podcast called The Read. That's like also one of my, it's just like two friends who just talk shit and like pop culture and black
Brilliant.
excellence and
I love
listener
it.
letters. And then at the end, they pick something and they read it. So it could be anywhere from like their neighbor who closed the elevator on them, like, or it could be like reading the fuck out of the baby when he like did all that like fucked up it shit. So like it's just really, really, really great.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Alyssa. I kind
Thank
of want to just
you.
like sit and talk forever, but we can wrap up our time for now. But I'll be in touch. Come visit, or I'll come
Yeah.
visit you when we can do it. We love you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all of your work. You're like doing all the
Yeah.
real shit, and we all have so much to learn from you and with you. And I hope we can just keep doing all the things.
Thank y'all so much for having me. It's nice to meet you, Marseille.
Pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, Charlie, I love you. It's so good to see
I
your
love you so
face.
much. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye. So, yeah, how brilliant is Alyssa? Even though, of course, not all dance communities or just artist communities in general are going to function the same as in Chicago or have the same exact resource gaps or issues or concerns, I feel like Alyssa is really brilliant at providing this template for how to collectively identify those gaps and issues and needs and desires, and then organize that data and then give it to those folks who need to see it. And it sort of feels like it's impossible to ignore it when it's so clearly there laid out in front of you or them. And of course, we can't force people to read or listen or change, but again, when it's there and so clearly organized and available, it really puts it on them in a kind of public facing way to pay attention and do something, and it makes it so obvious if they aren't and don't. So I encourage you to do what I did when I got off this call with Alyssa, which is to just think through whatever institutions or communities or systems you are a part of and how some of these strategies might work or be relevant to specific issues you've noticed around you. And maybe there already are sort of similar strategies and platforms in motion. Of course, there are. And again, these are going to look different and feel different and be different in different places. And so just a moment to sort of check in how you're situated inside of all of that and how you want to be situated inside of all of that. And also check out MAP's statement, which we didn't talk about a lot today on air. But it's MMAPS, Movers and Makers Addressing Performance Systems. Alyssa is a part of the collective who put this document together. It's a fantastic resource. There's a link to it on our website, or you could probably just search online and find it quite quickly. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We hope you'll come back next week for a chat with Detroit's own Sacramento Knox. You can stay up to date about the schedule as well as find out more about the artists and view work from all of these artists on our website, www.newsunsmidwestfutures.com. And you can also find us on Instagram for updates or subscribe to our YouTube channel where we will stream all episodes with closed captioning. This podcast is supported in part by the Center for World Performance Studies at the University of Michigan. Take good care, and we'll see you next time.